Alright guys, today we're going to be going through a 4R70W Valvebody, and this is out of a 2004 E250 van. We're going to be overhauling the valve body, and after the valve body is clean, I'll show you of course the checkball locations. There's a drain back valve, there's a screen, and we're going to talk about some valves in particular that can cause problems if the valves get stuck. Alright, so let's start breaking this thing down. Now this top plate here, there's 2 bolts in it, but there's many of the 10 millimeter bolts, but just to save some time I had taken those out already. And these are the 2 like line-up bolts that line up when you would put in the case. There's an indent in the case. So let's take those out, and we'll take this top plate. Okay, that's what these look like, these bolts. It's a little that goes into the case to line up. Alright, so this top plate's going to come off, and there is a gasket here. This gasket will be changed. This will come right off. Okay, now we have your solenoids. Here's your A and B shift solenoid. This is your lockup solenoid. These also are going to be changed. Okay, so we'll just take those out, put them aside. Right now I'm going to flip this over, and here's the 2 tension plates. And on the earlier models, there used to be a plate here, but they eliminated that. And what happens since they eliminated it is this plate where the 2-3 accumulator top plate sits. Kind of this is what it looks like. I call it a like a sombrero almost. Okay, it sits like this on the valve body, and from constantly applying and hitting it, it cracks the plate. So if you feel a little indent, which I could feel, and you kind of got to look at it a certain way, it spider webs and cracks. And then this will of course lose pressure to your third clutch oil, or your third clutch, or your direct clutch, and it will eventually burn it out. So I always change these plates, especially a lot of these that we get are in work vehicles and construction vehicles, and a lot of them, I see many that aren't cracked, let's put it that way. You know, it might be at the point where it's not causing a problem, but you can see the spider webbing, you can see the indents, and it will be a problem. Okay, so that plate's going to be changed. All right, now here we have there's 8 check balls in this valve body. There's like a converted drain back valve, and there's I guess a little screen here. Keep the crap out of the solenoid brake valve. All right, but I'll go over all those locations with you. So just to move it along, I'm going to just dump this out here. So we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, there were 8. Yep, here it is, 8. Okay. And I always update the pressure regulator valve. So we're going to pull that valve train out. Okay, we're going to put the clip aside. All right, here is the, this is inside here is the boost valve. Here is the spring. And here is the valve. This valve has just a little wear to it, not bad, but again, this is a work truck, and we're going to be updating this. Okay, alright, so this is the valve body here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this over to the sink. I'll clean it up. You guys seen me do that, so first thing I'll do before I do that though is what I like to do before I clean this up is I like to flat sand. Okay. Now I like to do this side as well because there is the plate with the gasket. So you don't want any cross leaks in this area either. All right, so we got this valve body apart. Now I'm just going to clean it up in the sink. And then we're going to talk about, I guess, 3 particular valves. The first one is the pressure regulator valve. Basically, I like to update that. We're going to talk about the solenoid rate valve, which is here, and the overdrive regulator valve, which I believe is this one. This one, yeah, it is this one. Overdrive brake valve, solenoid rate valve, and the pressure regulator valve. So we'll talk about that. So I'll be back in a few minutes with a nice clean valve body. All right, so to continue with this 4R70W valve body, first we're going to talk about the pressure regulator valve. And this pressure regulator valve, I like to change on every overhaul the valve itself. Okay, this is what the lineup looks like. And a lot of times what happens is from the pressure pushing the valve in one direction, a lot of the coating and the valve wears down in this area here. Okay, so that's one thing you want to look for. Every one of these I change. This one here, you could see it's a little worn. The valve feels a little scratchy. So this is going to be changed. I changed that with the Sonics valve. And if you can see the grooves cut in the end of the valve here, the oil gets around these grooves to keep the valve balanced so you don't have that wear like you would have on your regular pressure regulator valve. So this is a pretty good update. All right, and this, see if I can get it out, is the boost valve. Okay, you want to look at this valve for wear. You want to look inside here. Make sure there's no wear. Sonics also sells a replacement. I find these are pretty good, but they do wear out. If Sonics makes it, then it can be an issue. Okay, so to put this valve in, we pretty much this is just a drop-in replacement valve. We have the valve, we have the spring, and then we have the boost valve. I'll just pop this clip right in. Okay, so that's good. The next valve, again over here, is the solenoid regulator valve. And that valve pretty much just does what the name of it is. It regulates the oil to the solenoids. It doesn't want to, it regulates because it doesn't want to give it too much. If it gives it too much, it won't be able to exhaust it. Now, a couple of things that happen, or the problem that will happen if this valve gets stuck, is you will get a neutral condition on takeoff. And pretty much what happens when the valve gets stuck, it builds up too much pressure. Because of building up too much pressure, it strokes the 3/4 shift valve, which releases the forward clutch, and you'll get that sensation of a neutralization on takeoff. Okay, also if your solenoids are mechanically clogged, you're going to get the same problem. I believe it's especially solenoid B. If that's mechanically clogged, it's going to build up pressure, it's going to stroke the 3/4 shift valve, release the forward clutch, same problem. Also, if you have, if your control wire to solenoid B is grounding against the chassis or grounding against something and turning the solenoid on, same thing is going to happen. Solenoid's going to turn on, it's going to stroke the 3/4 shift valve, it's going to dump the forward clutch oil, and you'll also get that neutral on takeoff. But that particular code usually is accompanied by a PO755. All right, so this is the solenoid regulator valve. Okay, so you want to make sure this valve is very, very free, so you don't get that neutral condition on takeoff. And this valve will just slide right in. Okay, let me turn it this way, and this has one of these stopper plates. All right, so for this, we're just going to push the spring in. Okay, and that is the solenoid reg valve. Okay, and the last valve located in this valve train is the overdrive regulator valve, and pretty much the reason why I wanted to speak about that is because the overdrive servo, okay, the snap ring that holds the servo in likes to break, or the E-clip that holds the servo together likes to break. And if any of those, one of those two snap rings break, a lot of times it works its way down into this valve train, and you'll have a 3-4 neutral condition. And you can have that before and after overhaul. Pretty much what it's doing is just restricting the movement of the valve, not letting it fully stroke. So from that, it'll shift from 3 into neutral. So a lot of times you'll be going through this trains, you'll get up to that point where the overdrive service say, hey, I got no fourth because the snap ring is broken and the servo fell apart. Okay, great, you put it all back together, you got the same problem. Because a piece is stuck in here, restricting the movement. So that's something else. If you have that condition, that's what you want to watch out for. I help out some shops around in the area, and a couple of them had called me, and I said, you got to look at your overdrive reg valve because there's probably something stuck in it, and sure enough there was. Okay, so we're going to make sure all these valves are free. Okay, we have good there. We got our solenoid reg valve, we got our pressure regulator valve, everything's nice and free. Okay, so the next thing we got to do before we put the check balls in is we're going to turn this valve body over, and we're going to put this plate on. And that plate also takes a gasket. We're going to put that plate on, tighten down those bolts, torque them, flip it back over, and then we're going to do the check balls. So we'll turn it this way. Okay, here is this gasket that goes here. And you want to make sure these bolts are tight. After it's done, I torque these down to 100 inch-pounds. Okay, here are the two screws that send this onto the valve body. An issue with this particular plate here, if this plate is loose, you can also lose pressure. What can happen, I believe, if this plate is left loose, just say you're in fourth gear, you release the gas, and then you go to accelerate again, you'll have a neutral condition. I believe that's what will happen because I've seen it before, and I dropped the pan to check the solenoids and found the plate to be loose. All right, let me just grab my socket. Okay. All right, so we're going to tighten these down. torque these to 100 inch-pounds. Okay, those are like the line-up bolts there. And the rest of them. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch angles. I'm going to kind of get right on top of the valve body. We'll put the check balls in, we'll put the converted drain back valve in and the EPC screen. And then we'll finish putting this valve body together. Alright, so let me just switch angles, be right back. Okay, so we're going to put these check balls in. There's 8 of them. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have our converted drain back valve here. And then here's that screen, that EPC solenoid screen, or to keep the crap out of the solenoid reg valve. Alright, so that's what that takes. So check balls again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Converted drain back and solenoid screen. Alright, so that's all that takes for this valve body. So let me switch angles again, and we'll button this thing up, flip it around, put the electronics on, and get it ready to go in the car. Alright, so this is the plate that I use. This is a brand new plate. It's like it's made by Shift Technologies, which might be a division of Superior. I'm not 100% sure, but this is a new plate that I use. I call it the Super Tough plate. And pretty much I changed this because the other plate, you know, it cracks in this area. And I just have the other plate here. And I don't know if you can see this little mark here, but that actually, if you hold it a certain way, you can actually see the spider webbing around it, that the plate is starting to crack. And again, once that plate does crack, you'll lose your direct clutch oil pressure and burn that right out. Okay, so before we put the gaskets on, I hold the gasket against the plate, I turn it, you look at it, you make sure all the holes are clear. Okay, that looks good. So this one, you put it right on the line-up holes. Okay, the line-up pins that stick through. And the same thing with this one. Let's hold this one up. Turn it around, we'll take a look at it. And this looks good as well. Okay, so we'll install the plate. Alright, at that point we have our two tension plates now to go on. Just kind of look at the bolt patterns and you can see how the plate goes. Like these two are close together, these two are a little more spread apart, so that's what that looks like. So that's obviously going to go just like that. Alright, let's get these bolts in. We're going to torque these also to 100 inch-pounds. Okay, now before I put this gasket on, I'll put some grease and hold the gasket on, but for now, we'll just leave it open. Okay, so we're ready to go here. Now with this, again, with this plate, this is that top piece to that 2-3 accumulator. There's a piece I call a sombrero, and here is the other piece that's going to sit like that to keep that plate from cracking. So it's going to, that sit like that, that'll sit like that, and as it constantly, the accumulator constantly works, it will not bang a hole in the plate. Let me just get my lights back on. Okay. All right, so pretty much the only thing we got left with this now is the solenoids. Okay, which I like to change as well. So these are new. This is a work truck. It's a glass company. This transmission was in pretty bad shape. All right, so the first one that goes on is the lockup solenoid. Okay, and then the second one is going to be the shift solenoids. Our bolt to hold it down. Again, 100 inch-pounds. Okay, and here is the harness. Once I get this trans together, is the hard wire harness. In 2009, it went back to the soft wire harness. So this is your completed valve body with the updated pressure regulator valve from Sonics, the updated plate from Shift Technologies, which I believe is superior. And that's really about it for this. So when you do these valve bodies, my recommendation would be to take this pressure regulator valve out and look at it, and even put the updated one in. I would take out the solenoid regulator valve, because that's extremely important. You don't want that thing to stick or even drag in the bore. And you want to make sure you got full movement on an overdrive regulator valve, as well as all the other valves. But anytime I've had issues with these transmissions, not shifting correctly or whatever the case may be, it usually always boiled down to one of the three, depending on what the situation was. So I pay special close attention to those every time I do these transmissions or go through one of these valve bodies. All right, guys, so that's it for this 4R70W valve body. I thank you for watching, and you guys have a great day. All right, guys, just a couple of extra notes on this 4R70W valve body. We're going to talk about the pressure regulator valve briefly, and I got a pretty cool tool, bore resizing tool for the solenoid reg valve, which of course likes to stick a lot. So first, let's talk about the pressure reg valve. All right, so this is the valve that came out, and this is a 4-land valve. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, the replacement valve to go back in is also a 4-land valve, okay, which is fine. But when you get into the later valve bodies, I'm talking 2009, 2010, there may be a 5-land pressure regulator valve in this valve trim. And if that's the case, you cannot put this 4-land valve in. It will not work. Okay, I believe Sonics is working on the updated regulator valve. I haven't got any emails from them that it's out, but I do believe it just came out or it's in the works. I'm not 100% sure. So when you're working on the later valve bodies, just make sure if a 5-land comes out, you'd have to either put that in, or if it's too worn out, maybe get a replacement valve body, something to that effect, until the drop-in replacement or oversized comes out. Okay? The solenoid brake valve, needs to be nice and free, so I got this bore sizing tool from Sonics. Okay, I take the spring and the valve out, I bang it in, and until it bottoms out. It goes in rather tight, but it is resizing the bore, getting all the burrs off, and then it has threads back here. You put the a small bolt in or a screw in. I forgot the thread size, then I held it with a plier and banged it back out because it does fit rather tight, but I'm telling you, it's a great tool. It really resizes the bore. The valve is nice and free. And there's two of these available, one for the regular size valve, which I have. I did not ream it out to put an oversized valve in. And then there is the tool, of course, for the oversized valve. So I did want to make you aware of this. And those are a couple extra notes on the 4R70W Valvebody.